Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. Today let's check out the Mud Killer from Electric Eye Audio and just see how it goes. I think if you like the idea of an overdrive boost that really adds a hell of a lot of aggression to your tone, whereas really maintaining a really tight, focused sort of articulation for riffs, then the Mud Killer is just perfect for that. I've been playing around with it all week, and as you know, for years, I think the best tone I've ever got out of my Marshall is trying to get Gary Holt's Tempo of the Dam style tone, where he had his Langner modded Marshalls from the 80s. It's the most aggressive sort of Marshall tone that I just absolutely love. It's probably my favorite tone of all time. It's got that, like the roar of a Marshall, but it's this modern, modded, super heavy in the mids, boosted sort of tone. And as I was dialing in and playing around with Electric Eye's Mud Killer, I just came across that tone with no EQs in the loop or no other effects added, nothing else. All I've got going on is a noise suppressor NS2 in the front end. But the Mud Killer on its own and the Marshall DSL really does just transform your amp, especially this DSL, into a monster. I've not tried others, but this is absolutely killer. Just for the gear quickly that I'm running through, just so you can duplicate or replicate this yourself, I'm using my Charvel SoCal with an AMG 81 equipped in the bridge. That's all I'm using. And that's going into the Mud Killer and then going through the noise suppressor NS2, and that's going into the front end of the Marshall DSL, where you can see my settings there. It's actually pushing the bass a lot more than I ever have before, the bass and the resonance. And we can get away with it now, and I'll show you exactly how. And to output that signal, it's going through the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X, which is simulating the 1936V cabinet here with a single SM57 microphone pushed up to it. And that's just going in through my audio interface into Logic. So that's the whole gear running today, and just onto the Mud Killer now. And it starts with the tone knob up the top, and this just focuses on the mid frequencies, so you can actually do like a mid boost on this and just really drive up those frequencies like Gary Holt sort of thing, or you can scoop them out slightly. Then it goes across to the post gain, and this really is like an output volume. And adding this, I find it thickens up the tone as well as adding some gain, and it's a really good trade-off when you're using the pre-gain, which is like the overdrive on the unit. So you can really mix it up and get the best of both worlds and really dial in the perfect amount of overdrive you want for your tone. Now down to the overdrive gain control, and that just works like any other one. And now across the Mud Control dial, and this really just acts as a low shelf filter. And as you actually turn it up, it's just moving that low shelf across the spectrum, just taking away those low shelf frequencies that are going into the front end of the amp. So essentially you're just tightening things up by getting rid of those low shelf. I usually do similar things with the 6-band EQ, just taking out those bass frequencies going into the front end of the amp, and it just tightens things up. So now just for the switching options of the unit, the top switch here turns on or off the functionality of the actual overdrive passing through the unit. So with it in the off position, it's just a clean boost, and it's using the other 3 dials. And then as you switch it across, you can actually get the function of the boost from the overdrive. The second switch turns on or off the 1/4-inch jack for the amp channel switching. And the last switch here is the compression, allowing you to choose the different diode, whether you want a silicon clipping diode on the left or a lead clipping diode on the right. The silicon clipping diode, the voltage is actually a lot less, so it'll clip a lot earlier. Your signal's going to be a lot tighter and a little bit of a volume drop, whereas on the right with the lead, it's going to be a lot sort of like a fatter, looser tone, and it's not going to clip as early. So that's everything to talk about the Mud Control. Let's just go through it. I'll move the dials and we'll talk about it later. So just playing through those riffs, I didn't really want to stop and chat too much. I just wanted to see if you could just hear the subtle differences with the Mudkiller. I think it's designed more for that 7 and 8 string style guitar, but I find it's perfect for these sort of tight riffs that are thrash metal style riffs. So this is pretty much how I like to use the Mudkiller. I find that the post gain just turned up anywhere between 3/4 and full just gives you a really fat sort of edge to the tone. The tone itself, I find just in the center, you can push it a little tiny bit, but things start to get a little bit quacky just for this specific tone anyway. It's just dialed in the center. For the gain itself, you can have it crack just ever so slightly, but just turn right down. It still gives you that aggressive edge. I'm finding these are just my settings that work, that I really enjoy. As for the clipping, I think I prefer the lead clipping just with this specific tone, as it really fattens things up. And you've got the mud control, which can really just take out that excess of frequency. So I guess the best way to sum up the Mudkiller is you can have a really beefy, big fat tone that should be flabby and a real mess, but you can just sort of tweak it enough very subtly just to take out the flab and leave things tight, but you've still got this massive low end that you can just carry and add weight to all those thrash riffs, which is so cool. I think at the end of the day, it's just so simple and easy to use, and you can really tailor it to suit whatever rig you're just going through. Whether you're just wanting an overdrive that's thick and lush, you can boost those frequencies, or you want to tighten things up for thrash metal riffs, you can just do that, and it's quite easy. And I rate it highly, guys. I've never had anything just go through the front end of the Marshall DSL and really put out that tone of the Langdon mod that Gary Holt's Marshalls are. I think it's just so cool. They're the holy grail of amps. If I could have any amp in the world, it'd be one of those. And I think this, not that I've heard them up close, but I think this could be close. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Until next time, take care. Bye.